company's loyalty shrink? Hello and welcome back in the Live It Lead It podcast, the podcast for all the successful business leaders out there in the world. I'm your host, Olaf Kapinski. Loyalty is the big word that people stick to each other and that they are loyal in good times and in the bad times. And I know when I started not in my business career, but I started working, we are now 1990, that my parents were, pushing me to do an apprenticeship in one of the big companies that we've had in the city that I was living, just to be sure, so that you are safe, son. Safe in terms of I need to start in a big company, which I then can retire 40, 50 years later. And this was not of my concern. That was not the focus that I had back in the days. It still isn't. And it was like that in Germany, that I think until the 1980s, that you could easily start in a company and then you retire in that company. And you just don't need to see anything else. You don't need to move, so nothing. That worked for whole generations, really for whole generations. And what we now see is more and more the opposite. That the loyalty of companies, and the bigger the company get, the more is valid what I'm talking about in this episode, the more the loyalty to the employees just shrinks. And this is especially for big companies. In smaller companies, there is more sense, there is more meaning. They know what they are good for, and they know who's working for what. This is more family style. But in bigger companies, especially in bigger international companies, I can see this more and more and more. The belief is more and more that I pay the employees at the end of the month. That's it. So everything else is just managed in the employee's contract. But it's not really that I see big loyalty in long-term loyalty. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about that more and more companies tend to outsource more and more tasks to other vendors, or they just create legal entities somewhere else and then they move the work over. And I can see that this tendency reinforces itself somehow, and especially especially the departments that are working for the whole company, not in production, but like IT and finance and HR and marketing and you name it, that those companies are more and more getting moved out and just replaced with a vendor, or this department will be just moved into cheaper countries. Mainly because it's cheaper. I have never heard anybody in Germany saying, okay, we need to outsource to a cheaper country because there the delivery quality is higher. Why am I saying that? Mainly because this is the reason why they just move it back. The IT started with this outsourcing fashion, give or take in the 2001, 2002, 2003, something like that. And since we saw those waves, the pendulum, stuff gets outsourced, then it goes bang, and then stuff gets back insourced again, or just nearshored, or whatever it is, just got a bit closer to the company because just the quality was shit. Has not much to do with the countries that you move it to or that you source it to, but it has a lot to do of how you manage this deal. So, organizations optimize themselves nowadays in the 21st century on a different scale that they did optimize themselves beforehand. I had a friend, and we are now talking 30 years ago, 25-ish years ago, and he was the production manager or the production director of a company called Miele. And they were doing dishwashers and washing machines and stuff like that, close to the city that I grew up. And he was the plant director of that factory. And they had long and excessive discussions on where to put a shelf in this factory. I came visit him, and then I saw this big, huge map on the wall, and huge means a piece of paper 2 times 3 meters. That was the factory, and then lines and little cutouts, rectangles, which are the pallets, and this is the forklift, and what is the way that they do, what is the path that the material goes through this factory, and how close can we put the shelves to the machines so that the people and the forklifts can just bypass. That was big discussions. Nowadays, the discussions go more like, do we need this factory? Do we need this particular factory in Germany, or we can't move this to pick a country? This is the level that has changed. Organizations optimize themselves on a complete different scale that they did optimize themselves, easy half a generation ago, 30 years ago. And this is even more true for the small entrepreneurs. You may know that my company is helping entrepreneurs with this whole IT technology stuff that they need, but that they're not experts in. Each entrepreneur around the globe has a lot of, if this person is successful, then this person has a team of people helping him or her. And this starts with accounting, goes over tax, especially in Germany, over to IT. When you are a meditation coach, then you better don't fiddle around with technology. Not that I'm the holy IT guy and I don't want you to fiddle around with it, but I'm the coach, and I recommend that you don't burn your time on useless WordPress technology, rather than help your customers and grow and become better, learn. So all entrepreneurs already doing that, they have an organization, and that's the reason why we have more and more entrepreneurs around the globe, because it's quite easy to set up this global organization behind yourself without being a big corporate with some billion value on the stock market. You can do that by yourself. You can replace them. If I've changed my tax agency half a year ago. Changed means I kicked them out and I moved this all online, and it's now a tool. It's a program. It's a very, very, very well done program. It's I love Debitor. That's the word of the tool. I don't know if that's available in your country, but everything that I've paid big money for beforehand, because somebody was doing this manually, I now do online. Everything is automated. Perfect. Going back to the topic, big organizations continue to do that. And the difference is that I can now see in Germany, I have first-hand contact with department leads who get outsourced, who never thought that this is possible. Controlling can be outsourced. Marketing can be outsourced. HR can be outsourced. And all of them don't believe or didn't believe that they could be outsourced. And now they see themselves in a situation where the company just goes away. Well, not the company goes away, but the company calls them goodbye because they move it to and then pick a country. It's not so uncommon. It's not new. I'm not saying that this is a new thing. When you look at automotive industry, there is not much left that the automotive industry develops by themselves. And I really mean it, develop by themselves. I'm not saying selling by themselves. Developing by themselves. There is not one automotive, maybe apart from Bugatti, I'm not sure on them. But apart from them, there is not one automotive manufacturer on the world who develops their own wipers, who develops their own electric engines, who open up the windows. This is all bought by an external, preferably Bosch or VSC or what the companies are. This is all purchased by a professional or from a professional and then assembled into the own cars, and they manufacture, they orchestrate the vendors so that the result is an awesome car. Porsche is the prime example. They make money like hell. It's incredible. They are so effective, obviously, with what they do. And their production depth is, 20% or something like that. They are literally getting the cars delivered, and then they glue the Porsche sign at the front, at the back, and they put the engine in. That's all. That's all. Everything else is done by somebody else. Again, this is not a critique point. I understand all of that, but it is new to the business that the whole distribution, that the whole companies disappear. It's not that and I give you an example. And this example, you may hear this from time to time in the podcast, not necessarily because I'm a militarist, but I can see this as a very good demonstration object. Big armies. In the Napoleonic Wars, you had one big army on each side. This army had a rudimentary line of command. Rudimentary because you just could make the orders before it started. And once the battle was going on, you had virtually no chance to get there and tell them they need to shoot in the other direction. So a big army got organized and set up beforehand and then let the battle start. And when you have then your infantry, you look into the north and the cavalry comes from a direction which you didn't expect it. They are in a position that they don't want to be. Then Second World War. First World War was nearly the same. Second World War, especially German Wehrmacht, German Defensive Force, they created a system that is called task-based leadership. And this is the leader in front, the leader of the squadron that you have, is given a task and he can decide on how he achieves it. He's only given the task exclusively, take this city, take this hill, do whatever it is, and go, do. Nobody in the line of command gives any command how to do it. Maybe they give advice, maybe they give resources, like here's the troops, here's the planes, here's the tanks, whatever. But it's mainly under the responsibility of the person that you task with. Here's your resources, this is a target, go for it. And this is what we can see nowadays. There are not big armies anymore. We don't have like big armies. What we have is independent teams, independent platoons, and I don't care if how it is called, if it's really called a platoon and what's the size. But the size kind of never goes beyond 100, 200 people maybe. You have units who are independent, who can operate independently. And it's usually that you have units operating with each other on their duty who are from a different area. So you have 2 or 3 planes working with 2 or 3 tanks, working with some 100 infanterists. And, this is all puzzled together, dependent on the task that they have to achieve. So that's on army style what I see the big difference. And I know that I'm not exactly precisely correct here, but this is I believe you can follow that line of argumentation, starting with the big armies, some 10,000 people on the hill, go for it. And now we have the extreme is, you only sent a SEAL team. You sent a submarine with a Navy SEAL team. Oh no, you sent the plane with the Navy SEAL team, and then you sent the submarine to get them extracted out of it after they've done it. This is, I don't know, a SEAL platoon of 16 people. You better don't want to mess with them. And they have a higher fighting power than, I don't know, a whole army, Napoleonic army had. In the business, we are at the same position. Due to technology, due to education, due to everything, each particular unit that we have in the business is by far more effective than it was 100 years ago, 50 years ago, even 30 years ago. So we can see that the big organizations become more and more dynamic. We can see it here in Germany that lots of the big CIOs, CEOs, chief executive officers, are aiming for smaller companies. They cut their own companies in pieces to have 2 faster units as the result. And it sounds like it kind of works. We have a lot of German companies who just, the last 2-3 years, who just got reduced or reduced themselves, not got reduced in a way from the outside, but they just reduced themselves. They separated themselves to become faster, to become a faster acting organization on the market. And this is what we have, what I can see in all organizations. Loyalty of an organization to an individual, the bigger the organization is, it's nearly zero. And this brings me to 2 conclusions. Number one, it will hit you. No matter where you work in your organization, it will hit you. You will be outsourced or fired or moved over to another legal entity. It will happen. It's only a question of time. And the second conclusion is become a leader. What do I mean by that? Let's go back to a definition that I've shared in the podcast earlier. You have the employees who do the work. You have the managers who work the work. They optimize the processes, they make sure that everything is there and so on, so that the factory just produces. And you have the leaders who work the organization. They don't work the work, they work the organization. So an example of good leadership is Elon Musk, for example. He had a vision, he had an idea, yes, he had a lot of money, and he started companies like Tesla because he had a vision, and everybody said, that's a stupid idea, and now it looked a little while like he owns the market for electric cars. Now he's image-wise way ahead of all the others. We are in the middle of 2018 now. I think it's interesting 2 years coming for Tesla if they make it with Model X and with Model 3 and with the semi-truck and all of that, or if they still can't get off the ground given the problems that they have with the Model 3 at the moment. But going into the times when they had the Roadster, when they had the Model S and the Model X, Tesla was the only cool company on the planet building electric cars. All the others were still sleeping because this was leadership. The German car vendors were run by managers, bureaucrats you can call them if you want. The job of a manager is become more effective today in what you've done yesterday. A manager hates disruption because disruption is risky. Elon Musk was playing full risk. None of the German car vendors were playing at all on risk. Nobody did any innovation, and nobody did put any money into development of electric cars apart from BMW. Now that I'm talking about it, I have really no clue what they've done in the last 5 years because they've slept. They brought this mighty i8 car out and then this terribly ugly i3, and this is all 5 years old and I haven't heard anything from them until now. Well, I don't hear anything from them. But this is the difference. A leader seeks for opportunities, changes. A leader loves disruption. Not killing the company, but making sure that the company stays on the toes, that the company creates tomorrow a better value to the customer than yesterday. Whereas a manager tries to create today the stuff from yesterday a bit more efficient and a bit more effective. That's a big difference. Become a leader. If my theory is true, and I have no doubt on that the organizations, fixed static organizations disappear more and more, and they are replaced by a grid of independent, smaller organizations. They source out, they give tasks to a vendor, or. Then you have to become a leader, no matter what hierarchy level you are. I'm from IT, and I know enough network team leads, server team leads, who are just dealing with network and with service. That is not enough. You are never the best IT department in the company. You cannot be. Number one, you do not know your competitors. We're talking about shadow IT now. Every company has a lot of IT departments. The engineering guys are just asking for this engineering machine from the local vendor because they deliver tomorrow, rather use central IT, deliver in 3 months, and so on and so on. We all are facing shadow IT. Why is shadow IT out there? Because they needed it and you couldn't deliver in time. That's the only reason. So you are, as an internal IT company, never the only IT vendor to your company. You need to be on your toes because you can be outsourced very, very easily when you stay in the position of I'm delivering service. Because then the company just searches for somebody else who delivers service and you are out. What is leadership? or what is the difference, let's say, to leadership, between leadership and management? It's not really, it's an add-on. It's the thinking of disruption. It's the thinking of change. But a good leader has other duties than a good manager. Good manager needs to understand what you guys are doing, needs to understand the process and optimize the process, yes. But a leader needs to understand the world around it. And that's the difference. A good leader needs to work on marketing. Not in marketing, but on marketing for your own division. No matter what you run, no matter what your field of expertise is, your customers, and you need to understand it like that, your customers are the employees in your company. And you need to do some marketing so that they really love you at the very end. If you have nobody who knows you and you're just simply delivering a good service, and that's the downside of delivering a good service is usually invisible. If you're doing that and then a bunch of stocks are just get sold to the other clown, and this clown comes along and is just, we need to just reduce 5% more, then you're on the hook. Because if nobody knows what an awesome service you do, then you're just simply invisible. And then if you're invisible, then you're only a cost driver. That's important. You don't want to be in that position. So do marketing. Make sure that you do awesome stuff and that everybody knows about what awesome stuff you've done. Do finance and controlling, and really mean it. You need to have an overview of how expensive your organization is, and I do not care. This counts from if you're the server team lead running with 5 people some servers, or you run the whole IT infrastructure department as I've done. I don't care. You need to know how expensive is your organization. You need to know your competitors. You need to know the vendors that deliver the same stuff, and you need to have a feeling of the money that they make with that service. Sure, you have to have your services under control. Sure, you have to have all of those things lined up. You do not want to fiddle around. If somebody opens the door and says, "Dear Mr. IT guy, we just source you out because we have an offering from," pick a name of a company, "that delivers the 500 servers as well." You do not want to be in the position that you need to explain, wait. We are not delivering 500 servers. We're delivering 1,500 servers, and we're delivering this, that. Don't be in a position that you have to come in defense, become defensive. You need to be offensive. You need to make sure that your service catalog is ready. And this works as well if you're not in IT. You have to have a controlling ready that the money that you are given is the money that you spend, preferably less. If you are really good on that, then you are the one going to your boss and proposing an outsourcing. I've done that by myself, I must admit. I proposed that we create an independent company out of the IT department. It didn't happen, but that was my idea, because we could have found other customers, and we just could have done more stuff with the same people. So my recommendation was, let's just get in other customers. No. So if you see that your organization is too expensive, strip it down. Make sure that you are competitive. And here's my thinking. I know lots of people just say, we can't compete with the big companies out there on the market. That's bullshit. We've been there. We've done that. I'm not diving into the details in this episode. We will come to that later. But my take is that an internal department can always be 10% cheaper than any external. 10% cheaper than any external. Because the external is owned by somebody, and this somebody wants to have money. Let's give it 5 to 10%. Oh, here we go. They do the same like you do, and they don't do it with magic. Usually, even the big outsourcing companies, Tata and the guys, they just work with the same stuff that we've done. So this is not big magic. It's just only big numbers. So don't be afraid of them. You can be 10% cheaper than anybody outside if you set your horses up in the right way. What's additional to what you need to take care about when you do leadership? Research. I see so many old IT departments because of so lazy arguments. This is ridiculous. It can't be that the company comes to you and asks you for this new tool. You need to have research capabilities, development capabilities, no matter what you do, what you produce. I don't care. You need to be top notch. You need to be the one who proposes new things. This is the difference to a manager. Leaders need to understand what they are doing. Really, leaders need to take the realm, own the organization, and then run the organization as if it would be an independent company. Pronouncing it like this, as if it would be an independent company. Not saying that you have to become an independent company. But if the theory is right, that the big organizations fall more and more and more into smaller organizations because you can replace them easily, they are potentially cheaper, that's what still some accountants believe. All of those things, you can replace them, and at the very end, it's possible. If that's true, then make sure that you, with your organization, can survive such a thing, that you are part of that thing, that everybody knows what awesome services you do, that you do marketing, that you know your numbers, that you do research, that you do development, that you propose new things, that you become more and more valuable in your organization. So, companies' loyalty shrink, it will hit you. Become a leader. Becoming a leader doesn't necessarily avoid that they source you out, but that brings you in a much better position when it's on the case. It brings you in a much better position that they don't ask you for, please write down the processes, we fire you all. Rather than, could you imagine that you just take these two departments as well and you run this new company that we are founding to deliver this and that service? So you want to be in such a discussion, not in the kill them all discussions. And even if they fire you all, then you have a good crew, then you can create the new company by yourself. With a leader attitude, you are much, much, much more desired on the market. So all of those things. Companies' loyalty shrink. They don't give a fuck to fire you. Why not? Because it's not they. Big companies are not owned by anyone. They are owned by computers, and computers don't give a dime. So bring yourself in a good position. Bring yourself in an awesome position. Be good. Be valuable for the company. And that's it from me for today. Hear you next time. Bye for now.